What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Player Pool. Going to take a look at the NFL Week 13 main slate and build some DraftKings showdown lineups. And I've got a game that I'm focused on that seems to be going overlooked a little bit, and it's going to feature a team that has been steamrolling their opponents no matter what the game script is. And I'm going to get into it right after this. What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at Pumacom here with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching Player Pool. Going to be digging into the NFL Week 13 main slate. Like I said at the top of the show, going to build some DraftKings showdown lineups. And the game that I'm focused on is a division game, and it is featuring a team that has been steamrolling their opponents no matter what the game script is. And it doesn't have the ownership that I would have expected, which is going to give us an opportunity to build some tournament lineups, some decent tournament lineups. Before we get into that, make sure to hit the like button. Looking for 30 likes to put out a shorter video later on. And make sure to subscribe to the channel, because you don't know when those videos are coming out. Like, I'm recording this really late, much later than usual on Sunday morning at 9 a.m. Central Time. So, I just have been a little bit behind on getting my content out this week. Obviously, Thanksgiving kind of screws things up, but getting it out now. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, because I'm trying to get to 1,300. I need about 50 more subscribes to get there, so please help me out with that. And let's dig into this player pool here. Going to take a look at the Chargers versus the Falcons. It's a game that should be pretty interesting. The total on this one is 47.5. We got a 1.5 point spread, so they're expecting a close game with this one. Justin Herbert is going to be popular this week. He is he's got a cheap price tag on top of the upside that he's shown recently. Look at these games: 24, 19, 19, 25, and 17 DraftKings points, and he's only 5,600. So it makes sense that Justin Herbert is going to be cheap this week. I'm going to have some exposure to him. I think it makes a lot of sense to build some Justin Herbert lineups, but I do think that him being the most popular quarterback on the slate is interesting. But as far as his pass catchers, let's take a look at some of his. I'm going to take a look real quick at some of his pass catcher ownership. See if we get an idea of if stacking makes sense. All right, so McConkey is looking at around a 32% ownership, which is interesting because I think the guy with the best matchup is going to be Quentin Johnson. And Quentin Johnson is – switch over to DraftKings here. Like, Quentin Johnson is in a situation where he might have the better matchup of the two. The Falcons are giving up 28.5 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. They're giving up 11.3 to the slot. So that makes Quentin Johnson a little bit more interesting here. Let's take a look at him real quick. Last week, he completely dudded out. He's got a 0. I had him in the captain. It was a showdown slate, and just completely crapped the bed. So I was not very happy with that. But we find him in another situation where he could be a difference maker. McConkey. No, I was looking at FanDuel. McConkey's only 17% owned, so that's a good situation for McConkey. Much better than the 32% owned. Johnson is only 1.2% owned. So we got some cheap ownership on these stacking partners, which makes it good situation if you're going to play Justin Herbert to make sure that you're stacking him. It looks like a lot of people are just playing him because he's cheap and might not necessarily be focused on this game. It's going to make Bijan Robinson interesting as well. Robinson, there's some damage to the linebackers of the Chargers. Let's take a look at that real quick. You see, Denzel Perryman is out. Um, Day and Henley is questionable, just banged up in general. Uh, we got Chris Rumpf on IR. I'm not really sure if he's, how far down the depth chart he is. Chris Collins also out. Junior Colson, you get the idea. A lot of these guys just depth, and they are lacking in depth. Um, the main one, though, being Denzel Perryman. So that this is going to help out with Bijan Robinson. Uh, the left cornerback Cam Hart is out, and that is where let's see. That is where Drake London lines the opposite. So Drake London is going to be interesting as well. A lot of good stacking options in this one. The Chargers are giving up 17.7 DraftKings points to the slot. Drake London runs a lot of his routes from the slot already, but then, when he runs out wide, he's going to be likely against a backup potentially. So Drake London is definitely in play this week at 6,500. He's relatively cheap. Has not done too much lately. 9 DraftKings points last week. He had 7 a couple weeks ago, but he does have the upside. 36 points earlier in the season, so he's got some decent upside. Drake London definitely in play. Darnell Mooney will be in play as well. Darnell Mooney, if this game ends up being a shootout or being a high-scoring game, then that's going to set up Mooney as well to have a decent game with this dinged up secondary for the Chargers. Let's take a look at tight end. Tight end, middling matchups for both sides on this one. Disley has been active in the passing game lately. 6 targets a couple times in a row, and then 4 targets last week. But he's had 11 targets, 7 targets, 5 targets. He's had a lot of heavy target games. So Disley is interesting at 4K. Pitts, kind of a perennial disappointment. Last 3 weeks, 2 out of the last 3 weeks, he had 2 DraftKings points. He has shown upside with 25 DraftKings points, but in a middling matchup, maybe not the best guy to go to. He's at 4,600 though, so his price is manageable. And then I think that's it for this game. Kirk Cousins on the other side. Chargers have been giving up. They've been giving up more points to quarterbacks lately, but their average is about 17 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. So Cousins will be he'll be in play in a tight game with a high total, but he is at 6K. So Herbert makes the more affordable play, and he's in the better matchup. So that makes sense that Herbert's got the ownership. Pittsburgh versus Cincy, divisional opponents here. Cincy has been on a roll. They've been able to put up points against some tough matchups. We've seen it with the Chargers last week. They put up 27 points against the Chargers and are actually in week 11. Let's see. Other than that, they put up 25 points against Kansas City, which was a much tougher defense earlier in the season. Since he has the potential to put up points against this Pittsburgh team, Russell Wilson on the other side gets the better matchup with Cincinnati is giving up 20.9 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. Burrow's side, they're only giving up 12.4 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. So Pittsburgh, a much tougher defense. But if Russell Wilson's putting up points against the Bengals, you can imagine that Joe Burrow is going to be answering on the other side. With the Steelers, the best matchup is George Pickens with Cincinnati giving up 23.8 DraftKings points a game to the wideout position. They've been a target all season long for these wide receivers, and this week should be no different. Pickens kind of up and down. Depends on what the game script looks like, really, if you're going to use him, because they definitely prefer to run the ball. But Pickens finds himself in a good spot. If you think this game can shoot out a little bit, then it'll be interesting. You got a middling total, 46.5 points with a 2.5-point spread. So it definitely could be one of those games that's either a slog with running backs or it's going to be more of a shootout type of situation. So keep that in mind with Pittsburgh versus Cincy. If we're looking at running backs, Chase Brown is very cheap at 6,200, especially considering his role. Zach Moss is out for the season, I believe. So Chase Brown has been getting plenty of opportunities, been making the most of it. About 20 DraftKings points in each of the last 3 weeks, and he's had some other big weeks in there too. But they brought on who'd they bring on? They brought on another running back on the Cincy side. Who was it? Khalil Herbert. But he hasn't done anything since he joined the team. So, tough to see what kind of usage he's going to get, but shouldn't take too much away from Brown. Brown should continue to be a huge part of this offense. For the tight end position, Gesicki has been a non-factor since Higgins has gotten back. He's basically relevant when Higgins is out. On the Pittsburgh side, the Cincinnati defense is giving up 15.8 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position. So that's going to put Freiermuth and Washington in play. Washington's been interesting. The dude looks like a beast. He's been getting decent amount of targets, 3 targets, 4 targets, 3 targets. He's 2,900. I could see him sneaking in a touchdown in this one. Freiermuth has been largely a disappointment. He's been getting about those same amount of targets as Washington. I would imagine that he would draw more ownership, and he's $600 more expensive than Washington. But Washington seems like he's a big target, and Russell Wilson likes going to him. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Washington score a touchdown in this one. If you're looking for like an anytime touchdown prop or something like that, especially with the weakness of Cincinnati versus the tight end position. Otherwise, with wide receivers, Jamar Chase, I think Chase is going to have the more difficult matchup in this one. I think that Higgins is going to be set up for a bigger game in this one. Let me take a look at the man versus zone. All right, I'm going to take a look and see what the matchup is looking like for these guys. For man versus zone here. Sorry, I thought I had it queued up, guys. All right, so the Bengals, Steelers are running the 8th most man coverage in the league, and lately that has been where T. Higgins has been the majority of the targets, 31% target rate versus Jamar Chase at 24% target rate. I would imagine that Porter would be on Chase in this one. Let me check out the matchup situation here. All right, so Porter aligns on the right side of the field 48% of the time, and both Higgins and Chase are kind of equal on the left side of the field. So I think given the matchup, I think that Higgins would likely be the one with the better matchup. So I like him better in this one. I put out a short video on Underdog where I went over a parlay that could get us 130 times our investment. It's a long shot parlay, but I do think that it has a lot of interesting pieces in it. Here, let me go over it real quick. Came close on the Black Friday Underdog pick'em that I put out the other day. Today I got Mike Evans, I like to score a touchdown. I like Baker Mayfield going higher than 259.5 passing yards. And Bucky Irving, this is the one that's going to, shoot this pick'em to the moon. Bucky Irving, zero point 0.5 receiving touchdowns. Irving's been a lot more involved in the pass game recently, and he does not have a receiving touchdown on the year, but that could easily happen against this Carolina defense that's given up a boatload of points to the running back position. We also got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. This is where I went lower on Chase with 76.5 receiving yards, and I went higher on Higgins, expecting him to have the better matchup with 79.5 receiving yards. So, I got two touchdown projections in this one. Use the promo code SEEK over on Underdog, SEEK, and that's going to get you 50% deposit match up to $1,000. So you can get $1,000. We're getting close to playoff best ball. I can't stress this enough. You're going to want to watch our content on playoff best ball. That's been, my favorite playoff, or favorite best ball game to play. Done well the past couple years with projecting some of these teams getting into the playoffs and making runs in the playoffs before, the field does. And it gives us good opportunity to invest in these teams early when we're drafting our playoff best ball teams. And this year shouldn't be any different. So use that promo code SEEK. They're going to give you a 50% deposit match up to $1,000, and you can play this pick'em with me. I am shooting for. I made a $20 investment in this five pick'em lineup, and the return would be 27.86. So really long shot, but I think it's viable for sure with some of these potential guys, especially with the blowout potential for the Carolina game. So that's what I like about Chase and Higgins. I like Chase going under his yardage total and Higgins going over because I think that Higgins will have the better matchup of the two in this one. Pickens, he is in play too against this horrible Steelers defense. I think I talked about him already. Calvin Austin might even be in play too. Had a big game the other day, but when he's gotten his opportunities, he's shown a lot of upside. So Calvin Austin at 3,300. If you think this game shoots out, he'd be a good guy to add into your stacks. Move on to Houston and Jacksonville. This is another game we're looking at. Trevor Lawrence. See what his situation is. He's dealing with his shoulder injury and still waiting, I guess, on final word of what's going to be happening with him. Let me check out on Twitter real quick. All right, so Trevor Lawrence, according to Rappaport, is adamant that he's playing. He won't be 100%, but he plans to play. So Doug Peterson has said that he believes that Lawrence will play. So if Lawrence plays, that's going to give a lot of upside to these Jaguars. I would like Brian Thomas in that situation. He's pretty cheap at 5,500, and he should get a boatload of targets, or a decent amount of targets against this Houston secondary, which is giving up 21.2 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. They're giving up 17 DraftKings points a game to the slot. We're dealing with issues with Christian Kirk being out and stuff like that. That is going to boost Brian Thomas even more. Didn't really see too much of a boost in targets recently. 3 targets, 4 targets, 4 targets, 5 targets. But this is a game where if we get Trevor Lawrence in, it should be a pretty close game. Division rivalries, and Houston has the ability to put up points. They have a better matchup, too, against Jacksonville's defense, with the quarterbacks getting 23.5 DraftKings points a game from Jacksonville's defense. The running backs are in play for Houston. Joe Mixon getting 28 DraftKings points a game, 29 DraftKings points a game. That is huge. And, Jacksonville just has not played well this year. So Joe Mixon will be in play for sure. He'll probably be the highest owned guy in the slate with this matchup. On the other side, not really interested in ETN or Bigsby. Those guys have been MIA all season, and Houston's a pretty tough run defense. So, not too interested in them. We got Ingram in play as well with that slot matchup against Jacksonville, against Houston. Houston's only giving up 9 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position, but Ingram's more of a slot receiver where Houston's been susceptible. So, I like Ingram this week as well. For the tight ends on the other side, the Jaguars are giving up 14 DraftKings points a game to tight ends, which puts Schultz in play. Schultz is only at 3,300 this week, so he's in a good spot, but he's just not delivering. But he has been getting targeted. He has 6+ targets in 3 of the last 5 games. So some interesting guys in play. Stroud getting Nico back. Nico's going to be in a good spot. There's just a lot of good plays on the Houston side. If you want to stack Houston, you can run it back with Robinson. Stroud is pretty cheap at 6,400, considering his team's at full strength now. And if Jacksonville's able to put up any type of a fight, then that's going to put them in play. Moving on to the next game, Arizona at Minnesota. This game doesn't do a whole lot for me. Minnesota is only giving up 16.2 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. They've been tightening up on their defense. They're only allowing middling marks to the wide receivers now. Before they were a target for quarterbacks and receiver, but now they're only middling in that regard. So that's going to lower the matchup potential for Kyler Murray, and he's really only got Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride to throw to. McBride, the Vikings are only giving up 10.5 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position. So that's going to be a knock on them. Let's take a look and see what kind of situation we're looking like for injuries, just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, looks like just some depth issues on the Vikings side here. As far as the offensive line is missing Darisaw, which is significant. Josh Oliver is out on this one. That's going to be good for Hawkinson. So yeah, other than that, no real injuries beyond that for the Minnesota side. Let's take a look at Arizona's injuries. Got a freaking mosquito flying around my face right now. Sorry, guys. On the Arizona side, just a bunch of questionable guys on the defense. We got some depth issues at right guard for the Cardinals. So, just more struggles for the offense. I'm not really on this game. I don't really like anything about it. The matchups don't really signal anything for me. Minnesota's slot has the most interesting matchup, and I'm not really interested in Minnesota's slot receiver, but that is where Justin Jefferson does run 38% of his routes. So, like Justin Jefferson might be in play, but he's expensive. He's going to be 8,100. He's discounted compared to where we've seen him recently, But, he continues to, he's just not putting up those game-breaking scores with Darnold, but that, obviously that could change at any time. But do you want to pay 8,100 for that? You're going to need to get 32 points out of him, and he hasn't done that this year. Harrison at 6K is more reasonable against this Minnesota defense, which had at some point in the season been giving up a decent amount of points to wide receivers. And I would imagine that they're going to be throwing in this one because they've been struggling running it lately. And then on top of that, Minnesota's only giving up 16.9 DraftKings points a game to running backs. So keep that in mind with Harrison. And Hawkinson, like I mentioned, with Oliver out, that's going to make him even more interesting. He's been getting 21 DraftKings points and 15 DraftKings points in a couple games he's been back. He's only at 4,400. His price has not gone up at all, which makes him, like an affordable play this week. Not the best matchup, but, he's getting enough volume so that it can work out for him. Minnesota's defense, I think, would be interesting here. I like the Cardinals' defense as well because Sam Darnold, he's not been playing at his quote-unquote MVP level that he was playing at earlier in the season. So both defenses in play in that one. The Patriots versus the Colts. This is going to be an interesting one. Could be a sloppy shootout. Looking at a 42.5 point total, but a very close spread, 2.5 point spread. We've seen it with Anthony Richardson. He has the ability to put up points. He's only at 5,500. Let some people down. He was chalky last week. Only had 13 DraftKings points. But let's take a look at his ownership this week and see if that impacted him at all. All right, so if I'm looking at ownership for quarterback position, Richardson is still coming in over 12%. So people are still going to him. I think given like the price point, 5,500 versus Herbert, both those guys are going to be popular. Probably the two of the top owned guys on the slate. But we've seen Richardson's upside. I like Drake May better than Richardson. Drake May has that rushing upside as well. Let's get an idea of his ownership. Drake May looking at, Drake May is like sub 5% owned. So I think with Drake May, people don't like to stack him because there's no one to really stack him with. But like for a price that cheap, Indy has been a target. Like their defense has been a target all year. They're giving up 17.2 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. They've been most susceptible against the tight end and the running backs. So 14.3 to the tight end position. That's going to put Hunter Henry in play. 25.2 to the running back position puts Ramondre in play. Either of those guys you could stack with Drake May. Ramondre gets involved in the passing game. Or at least he used to. Let's see what he's been doing. 4 targets, 5 targets, 4 targets. He's capable of getting up 5 targets. Could get a receiving touchdown in that one. Help us out with our Drake May points. So 5,600 for Drake May. Tight end Hunter Henry is at 4,200. Hunter Henry's been threatened by Austin Hooper lately. Austin Hooper's been a lot more involved. So not the best play, but he's got one of the best matchups. So Hunter Henry is in play against Indy. Looks like Downs is out this week, and Pierce is questionable. That's going to make Adonai Mitchell. He's been getting targeted a ton by Jesus Christ, freaking brain fart, by Richardson. He's been getting targeted a ton by Richardson, and he has been one of the main targets against man coverage as well. Let's see what man coverage is looking like for the Colts here. All right, so the Patriots are running they're running zone coverage at the top rate. Number one zone coverage offense in the league. Let's see here. That's the Colts defense. My bad. Let's see. All right. Yeah, that's more like it. The Patriots are given the number 2 man coverage rate in the league. So that is going to make Mitchell very interesting. 43% target rate in general against man. And then he's going to be playing more with downs out. And then on top of that, he gets targeted a lot by Richardson when he's on the field. So the Fantasy Points website put out a thing that they call the ASS, which is the separation meter. They're able to judge how much which receivers are getting the most separation in their routes, and Mitchell has shown up repeatedly near the top of that list or at the top of that list. So just a lot of things going well for Mitchell as far as signals. And on top of that, he's at 3,900. Take a look at his ownership. We're looking at 11% ownership. So people are not buying in on him yet, but maybe he has a big game this week. It gives us a cheap punt option at 3,900 in our wide receivers. So he's going to be interesting. Pittman will also be interesting. Pittman's gotten a decent target share from Richardson, but he's only hit 20 DraftKings points once, but he's at 5K. So he's capable of putting up 20 DraftKings points, which is what we need out of him. As far as the receivers on the Patriots side, Booty is back in play against this weak Indy defense. He's still getting his targets, 6, 6, 6, 6. He gets basically 6 targets a game with Drake May. So Booty, if you're looking for a cheap stacking partner, Booty could be good. Let's take a look at Seattle versus the Jets. Actually, first let me take a look at something with those Patriots. I'm going to go over to the snap shares. Looking at the Patriots, we got Bourne. Since he's come back, he's got a 59% snap share. Booty has 87%. That dude is on the field all the time. Douglas is at 68%. And Polk is at 33%. Polk has basically been phased out. Douglas, Booty, and Bourne are the interesting guys. But out of those, let's see what they're giving up to the slots. Indy's only giving up 11.2 to slot receivers. That would be Douglas there. So yeah, maybe Booty, but I'm more interested in Hunter Henry and Ramondre Stevenson as the potential guys in this one. I think going against that is you're just trying to hope for the best. But they are cheap. So if you need salary relief options and you want to start Drake May as your quarterback, then definitely by all means, Booty I think would be my favorite with all the snaps that he's taken. Tennessee versus Washington. Game playing in Washington. Looking at a 44.5 point total. Levis has been playing better recently. He's at 5K. 18 and 16 and 19 the last 3 weeks. I don't think people have caught on with Levis recently. Earlier in the season, we were targeting Washington as one of the go-to targets, but since they were playing better, their defense has gotten tighter, and they are only allowing 16.7 to wideouts and 7.4 to slots. As far as DraftKings points, they've been more susceptible to running backs with 22.2 DraftKings points. But there's really nothing in this matchup that I like. Levis is cheap. He's got that going for him. But, that's really it. He did have 19 points against the Chargers, which were a tough defense up until that point. So if you want a 5K guy, I think Levis, makes an interesting play. You could stack him with Ridley, who's only 5,700, but he gets a boatload of opportunity. 6 targets, 9 targets, 8 targets, but he's had as high as 15 targets. We could see, Ridley do something interesting this week. As far as tight ends, not really interested in tight ends in this one. I think the defenses, Washington is in play, but they're expensive. Let's move on to the next game. Jaden Daniels, by the way, not too high on him, but he is obviously. Let's go back to that. What's his price at? Daniels is at 7,200. He's just too expensive, and he had a 32-point game last week against Dallas. So he's shown that he still has that upside, but he had a couple weeks where he wasn't putting up any points. The hype on him kind of died down a bit, but he's been doing all right from a DraftKings perspective. Teams in contention for the playoffs, they might try to make a push for Rookie of the Year with this guy. So don't be surprised if Bo Nix is nipping at his heels for that Rookie of the Year talk. So don't be surprised if they make it a point to give Jaden Daniels some opportunity to put up some stats in this one if they have a decent enough lead in that one. And on top of that, the more I'm talking about this, more I'm getting talked into it. Look at Tennessee. Look at Tennessee's injuries to their secondary. Quandre Diggs, IR. Ladarius Sneed, IR. Awuzie is on IR. Gibbons, IR. Just a bunch of dudes on Gibbons, and a lot of these guys were, big pickups in the offseason. So their defense isn't going to be as scary as they look on paper. Look at their depth on their offensive line too. Just a bunch of dudes on IR, and we got Leroy Watson is out. On top of that, so just really banged up team on Tennessee's side. They Washington could stomp them in this one, and they could make it a point to give Daniels an opportunity in this one. So just keep that in mind. If they do that, that's going to make McLaurin interesting. He's expensive at 7,100. Brown would also be interesting. He's at 4,400. I like that a lot better. But I think McLaurin and Brown would be good stacking partners, obviously, for Jaden Daniels, if you want to go there. This is my favorite game on the slate. Make sure to hit that like button. Give me the 30 likes. Hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 1,300 subscribers. I wanted to get there by the end of this week, or by the end of week 13, I should say. Very close to that. I only need about 50 left. So hit that subscribe button. You want to get those alerts for when my videos come out. All right, so let's look at this one. Baker Mayfield, absolute stud all season long. He had 1 week, couple week games all season, but for the most part, look at the points this dude puts up. He really has not disappointed. He's still at 6,600 too, which is pretty affordable price. He should be up there in that Jaden Daniels range, but he's not. So I consider this a discounted price for Mayfield. This is a division game. The Panthers head coach is the former offensive coordinator for the Bucks. So there are two teams that are very familiar with each other. That Panthers head coach, brain farting on his name, but he was kind of a quarterback whisperer, quarterback guru. He got Russell Wilson doing well. He got Geno Smith doing well, and then he revitalized Baker Mayfield last year in Tampa before getting signed by Carolina as their head coach. And now, he's been doing okay with Bryce Young. Bryce Young has shown some not some necessarily some upside, but some ability in the past few weeks since he got reinstalled as the starter. We've seen him get 15, 10, 12, 16 DraftKings points. He's under 5K. Really, all we need in this game is for Bryce Young to put up somewhat of a fight against a weak Tampa Bay defense. Tampa Bay is getting 2 of their corners back this week, but they've been giving up 22 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. They've been giving up 25.7 to wideouts and 14.7 to tight ends. So they are one of the worst defenses in the league. The only position they've been defending well has been the slot, and that's where Adam Thielen is running the majority of his routes. Let's take a look at the injuries on the Bucks, because I think I saw something about the nose tackle. Let's see. Hayden Winks put out a tweet. Underrated injuries. The Bucks are going to be missing some significant guys. Let's go to this injury report here. Now, this is going to make this game even more interesting because we're looking for reasons that Tampa Bay can be competitive. Bucks are missing their starting nickelback, and that is going to be good for Thielen. They're also banged up on their safety, missing Jordan Whitehead. One of their starting linebackers is out. They got all these injuries. To Bryce Hall is on IR too. So all these injuries to these Bucks defense that is going to open things up for the Panthers to make this a little bit competitive. So I like stacking the Panthers stacking the Bucks against the Panthers, projecting this to be a game where the Panthers can stay competitive and playing a division rival at home. And that division rival has a bunch of injuries to defense. Don't be surprised if Bryce Young is able to who's been playing well recently, playing against a defense that was bad already, but now they're got a bunch more of these injuries to deal with. Jamel Dean being back is not good for them, but and Winfield is healthy again. I think Jamel Dean had been hurt for a few weeks, which was making them a weaker defense. But I do think that Young will be able to keep this at least competitive, which is going to make these Tampa stacks interesting. I like Irving. I like White. I like Irving better. Like you saw in my parlay, I think that he gets a receiving touchdown this week. I like Hubbard in this matchup. Tampa Bay has been giving up 25 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. So this game has, potential, I won't say shootout, but it has a potential, like with Tampa Bay trying to stomp all their opponents no matter what the game script is. If Carolina is able to put up even a little bit of a fight, then these guys are going to be, scoring a lot of points. And Evans came back last week, didn't do anything, so his ownership's going to be in check. He's only at 6,700. Let's get a look at some of the ownership on these guys. Bucky Irving will be the highest owned at 20%, and Evans is looking at around 16%. Otten, low owned. Baker Mayfield, under 5%. This can be perfect. Carolina, I'm liking Thielen a lot more. The ownership is going to David Moore just because he had a big week last week. He's at 3,500. I don't hate him in stacks, Baker Mayfield stacks. So we got all sorts of decent potential here. Leggett is under 5%. Hubbard is only at 15%, and Thielen is under 2%. So keep that in mind with Thielen and that nickelback situation. All right, I got my My wife texted me about breakfast here, so let's go through these a little quick here. Philly versus Baltimore. I think that Philly Baltimore is probably going to be an overhyped game. Their strengths of the defenses are the strengths of the offenses in this one. Philly's defense has been on fire. They've been able to stop the pass recently, and they've been good against the run. And they've been one of the best teams against the run, which is bad for Baltimore. And Baltimore has been one of the best teams against the run too, which is bad for Philly. So two teams that like to run, and the strengths of the defenses are the running game. Philly has a little bit of a better matchup because in the passing game, they can turn to the passing game against a weak Baltimore passing defense. So, the Baltimore's been giving up points to wideouts, 30 DraftKings points a game. They've been giving up 21 to quarterbacks and 13 to tight ends. So those are going to be the weak spots on Baltimore's defense. But I think in general, this might be, projected a little higher than it should be. Looking at a 50.5 point total in this one, 3-point spread. I think this one could disappoint. But I do like AJ Brown in this one a lot, and I like Goddard in this one. Tough to say on the Baltimore side. Any one of those guys could pop off, but the matchup is not good for them. Rams, New Orleans. Looking at another situation here with, let's see, what was it? The Rams have all 5 of the starting offensive linemen for the first time. And the Saints, Eric McCoy continues to not practice. So if he's out, I mean, we saw the team go to crap once Eric McCoy got hurt early in the season. So without him, they don't play very well. But Carr's been all right. He has the ability to put up points. We've seen him take advantage of Valdez-Scantling recently. He's put up 20 and 18 points since they shifted to a new head coach. He's kind of opened things up. Stafford with a healthy offensive line this week, is going to be interesting as well. We've seen his upside. New Orleans, both these teams have been susceptible to wideouts. New Orleans giving up or Rams giving up 21.8 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. I mean, Valdez-Scantling is really the only wideout that they have right now. Olave's on IR. It's really going to be the Kamara and Hill game, Hill show. So those are the guys. Like Hill is at $5K. That's cheap for a tight end. Kamara, probably heavily owned, but he's at 7,700. Wideouts, obviously Nakua is going to be in play. And might be a better matchup for Kupp because they are New Orleans giving up 19.7 DraftKings points a game to slots. That's a huge number for giving up to slots. So Cooper Kupp is in play in this one. So just keep that in mind. All right, let's go on to build some lineups here. Like I said, I like that Tampa Bay game. I'm going to start with a stack here. Going to go with Evans. And I like Bucky Irving to get a receiving touchdown. Had it in my underdog pick 'em. Keep in mind with underdog, promo code SEEK. Go check out my my YouTube shorts. You can see the video there. You can get the all the picks on that one. Is 130 times your money. The long shots in that one is basically Bucky Irving. I boosted some of the yardage for, I think, Higgins as well. So that boosted it up to 130 times potential winnings. But it's a very correlated set of picks there that I think could come through for us. All right, I'm going to put Hubbard in. Give us a run back. All right, so if I'm looking at the defense here, Cardinals, I don't mind at 2,400. Let's get Mitchell in there, get us some salary relief because we're going a little expensive on some of these guys. I want to get A.J. Brown in my lineup. Let's put him in the flex, though. Here, let's put Brian Thomas in. Let's put Brown in the flex. All right, that's going to leave us with 4,100 for our tight end. If you finagle a little bit, you might be able to get up to guys like Hawkinson, Goddard, and Henry. So let's get rid of Thomas. I got Brown in there, so I don't necessarily want to go Goddard in this one. Let's go with Henry. It's going to leave us with 5,400. If you wanted to leave Thomas in on that one, you could get Schultz in as your tight end. Then we're looking at guys like Leggett. Leggett would be perfect, but Thielen, we saw that matchup with Thielen. So let's get Thielen in there. Let's see if we can bump up our defense. Don't really like the alternatives there. But yeah, I mean, you get the idea. You can put in any one of those defenses, and this is an like a direction that we can go. Let's clear that out. Let's go to a different game here. Let's do it. Let's do a New England stack because I kind of like in New England the more that I was talking about it. Let's get May and let's get Henry in there. All right. So, it's wrong, Henry. Let's run it back with Mitchell again. So we got some cheap guys in here. All right, so let's get let's get Brown in here again. I like Bucky Irving still. Let's go with that Cardinals defense again because they're gives it a cheap option. Chase Brown, I forgot to mention him, but he's no, I did mention him. He's got a big workload. So let's just put him in. This is 6,800 per guy. If we wanted to get Evans in this lineup, we can do that too. At least this was 6,900. So we've got plenty of options there, like a Hubbard, Pickens, Wilson. Any one of those dudes. And Jigba, he's in a really good matchup against the Jets. McConkey. Lots of good options when you go in a direction like this, when you go cheap with these guys. Irving, we got the Irving Evans. I think I'd probably go with Hubbard in this one too, just to get that correlation in that one. But gives you guys an idea. I'm going to get to posting this. Sorry about the late recording on this. Make sure to hit subscribe. Get me to 1,300 subscribers and make sure to hit that like button. Get the 30 likes. All right, guys. Good luck.